Today we are going to see about OTN. This is something very interesting, and what it has enabled us to do is even more interesting. So I hope you all will have a background from SDH or SONET. So if you can remember the frame structures and the overhead, just keep in one corner of your brain. And while we go through OTN, just compare both of them. And if you have any questions, just come up with me at the end of this session. We will have a discussion. So the agenda is, we'll start with literature, where we will talk about the standards that ITUT has given for optical transport network, and we will slowly move into why OTN, because I am more interested in the why, and then we will move on to what is OTN, and then we will move into how OTN works. And then we will see about the frame structure and the overheads involved in OTN, and we will also see about OTN mapping, OTN lanes, optical switching, and we will see the journey of OTN, and finally we will have a question and answer sessions. So ITUT has given us a standard G709 which specifically deals with the interface of OTN. So the inter and intra-domain interfaces are clearly defined by ITUT, and the framing and frame structures are being specified by ITUT. And the other standard that you see here is G872, which talks about the architecture of OTN, and G872 will talk about OTN from a network level viewpoint. So first, we are going to provide service to a customer. So that becomes the service layer. You may also call it as an access layer, from where we provide service to the customer. And then the SDH or SONET layer, I hope many of you are very familiar about this layer. And finally, we have got this layer called optical layer, where we will deal about wavelength division multiplexing. And you might have a question, where does OTN come here? Can someone say, where does OTN come? Yes, of course, in the optical layer. So when people went into DWDM, there were a few challenges in managing this optical network. And managing optical network is very essential, because network needs protection and FCAPS operation, fault configuration, administration, protection, provisioning, and security. So for that, people thought that we will develop an optical network which can provide all these facilities of FCAPS, so that it can be operated and maintained better. And they also developed a strategy, and that's why we have mentioned vision. So the vision of optical network is to provide a flexible, scalable, and robust optical transport network which will support a variety of client signals, and client signals with various data rates. So when I say variety, it can be SDH, SONET, PDH, ATM. It could be a fast Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, and fiber channels, and IP, the big thing. And can someone come up with an answer why IP is a big thing? Yes, part of a yeah. And everything is IP here. The cell phones that you have in your pocket has an IP, right? So we are moving into IP. And I read somewhere that even the home appliances are having IP. So we will have a necessity to develop this IP big. And when you have to transport a capacity of 20G or 40G from one place to another place, covering a distance of more than 20 kilometers, definitely you need the support of optical layer. So there comes a stronger optical network. Let's have a look why IP packets couldn't directly move into WDM. Which functionality is required? Just think of some functionalities which you think IP packet. Imagine an IP packet, and that travels in the optical layer. What would be required for that to travel in the optical layer? Sorry? Destination IP address, okay.
The frame of the IP packet and the transmission.
Okay, you mean the frame information of IP, right? Okay. Can I rephrase? It means optical layer need not know the frame information, but it should know what comes after next? Start and stop. First thing is clock information. You know the reason. And the start and stop indication of packet. And error checking mechanism. Error correction. Okay. So WDM layer as such cannot provide all these functions. So people developed a standard called OTN, which will have all these functions so that IP packets can travel over optical layer without any hurdles. So then, with all these facilities and overcoming all the challenges, developing an optical network becomes an ideal optical network. When we say ideal, there will be a lot of challenges. And in business terms, challenges will directly affect the operational cost. So if there are some planners or designers here, you will know about the first thing. Channels start anywhere and end anywhere. We have a problem here because in DWDM, we have a constraint for channels. Okay, but here people wanted that channels should start anywhere and end anywhere. And it should be simpler than SDH and SONET. It should be cost effective. And wavelength conversion should be possible. And it should be optimized to carry carrier WDM networks, and it should support a multi-vendor environment because operators might use equipment from different vendors, and it should be easily upgradable so that you can increase its bandwidth at your own requirement and wish, and it should provide an extended reach between difficult nodes. So when I mention difficult nodes, it refers, the nodes could be different, the nodes could be at far off places. So whatever the condition, it should provide an extended reach. And it should also provide transparent delivery of client signals. So imagine that optical layer should satisfy all these conditions. So then this became issues because on one side we have to meet the expectation of the transparency of the optical layer, and at the same time it should support the legacy formats and it should also support the emerging formats. I'll tell you an analogy. For example, imagine that we don't have a car and you have built a car, okay, and you have to sell it to someone who has never seen a car. So you are targeting an invisible market here. So at this point, if you tell someone that I have built a car which has all these facilities and what do you want, he will come up with an answer. I'm riding a horse, I need a horse that runs with more speed, because he has not seen a car. Okay, so when you develop a car, it should be faster than a horse, because you provide all the facilities but it cannot compete with the horse. No use developing a car. So the same thing applies with technology, because when you develop a new technology, it will target an invisible market. At the same time, it should cater the needs of the existing market. And from a network level viewpoint, these optical channels should be able to manage themselves, and of course the operation and maintenance part. And for maintaining the FCAPS operation, we need some overheads. I hope you all know it. And that overhead also should be in optical format. So all these are challenges to the optical transport network. But then that was resolved by the technologies, because technologists always believe that if you can imagine something in mind, you can get that in hand. Okay. So you have got this OTN, and this is the optical channel. And OTN provides a wrapper, and the signal could be anything. It could be an IP signal, it could be Ethernet, SONET, SDH, video, ATM, frame relay, fiber channel, but it provides a wrapper so that your signal gets wrapped into that and passed into the optical layer. Okay, now we will move into frame format. So did anybody think that what is the need to move to the next level in technologies? Because people continuously strive for excellence and strive for developing new things in technology. Any answers? Because in the technology driven business, people often compare this business to dairy business, because if it's not fresh, you cannot sell. Okay, we'll move into frame format now. This is the optical channel. I hope you have got your frame structure of SDH and SONET in one part of your brain. Okay, compare that with this. This is even more simpler and easily understandable. So you got this optical channel overhead, payload, and FEC area. We will come to FEC area within a minute now. So first we will see about this payload. What is a payload? Payload is, okay. Then the overhead. So this optical channel overhead has frame alignment overhead, OTU overhead, that is optical channel transport unit overhead, and ODU overhead, which is optical data unit overhead, and OPU overhead, this optical channel payload unit overhead. So when you have a look at this, first is frame alignment overhead. So can someone say there what the bytes which supports frame alignment in SDH or SONET? Okay, so that performs a function for frame alignment in SDH. So the same function is being performed by this block here. Okay, and we will see in detail about the other overheads there. Okay, so this is the entire OTN overhead structure. First is the area of FAO, that is frame alignment overhead, and MFAS, which is multi-frame alignment sequence, and the green area there. Okay, we'll move into this ODU, the bigger part first. So this ODU overhead here has TCM support. TCM meaning tandem connection monitoring. Okay, so just keep in mind what is tandem connection monitoring in SDH. We'll come to that. Okay, and it also provides support for communication channels, the DCN, compare with that, and APS, automatic protection switching. And this section provides all these functions here. And we also have few other bytes. This is reserved, and that is also reserved, and that is FTFL is for fault, and PM is for path monitoring, and EXP experimental. And the next section is the green part, which is OTU overhead. This is ODU, that is OTU, and the last one is OPU. Transport unit, data unit, payload unit. Transport unit, data unit, and payload unit. So that is section monitoring, which provides the error detection and communication. GCC, general communication channel. The last byte is reserved. And lastly, you have this OPU overhead. So OPU overhead, what it does is it adapts the client signal to the optical channel. So it's specific to the payload. Okay. Now it's TCM. So if someone is interested in tandem connection monitoring, just tell me what it does in SDH+1. Or imagine a network without TCM. If we don't have something called TCM, the monitoring of the path from end to end is not possible. You'll only come to know that there is a problem, but will not know what is the problem. Because when we create a path, it will be from A to B to C to D, and that may end at somewhere. So TCM plays a very important role in that. SDH and SONET provides only one support TCM, and here we have 6 TCM support for OTN. So if you have a look here, a channel starts from an user here, compare. It's Chennai and that's Delhi, and that passes through an operator A, and then it goes to an operator B, and again to an operator A, and finally it reaches the user there. So TCM provides an end-to-end path supervision, and it also provides quality of service supervision, and it also provides you the lead operator quality of service. When I say lead operator, from operator A point of view, and then domain to domain interconnect supervision, because we involve 2 different operators, 2 different domains, and you have protection supervision. Apart from this, it also provides you the supervision or the function which will enable the user to the network communication diagnosis. Okay, forward error correction. Think of forward error correction. You might have heard about it in all the other technologies as well. So, and I have represented it with an ambulance. So, what is the service that an ambulance provides to us? FEC does the same. It helps us to improve the span of the link, and it improves the bit error rate performance, and overall quality of the link will improve because that provides us the diagnosis. And then OTN mapping structure. Just remind me, when we moved to mapping structure, the mappings that you might have seen in other areas, I mean SDH, SONET, and the technologies we have used there, like VCAT, GFP. Okay. Okay. First is the optical channel. I hope you all can compare this with the previous slides we saw earlier. And then inside the optical channel, you have this OTU payload, which is optical transport unit payload, and of course its overhead and FEC. And then this OTU payload will have ODU payload and the ODU overhead, and the ODU payload will have OPU payload and the OPU overhead. Okay. And you can also see some data rates mentioned on the side: OPU, ODU, OTU. Just have a closer look. You will get questions about it in the future slides. Okay. Something is missing there, which we normally use. I mean the data rate. Okay. Did you see ODU 0 in the previous slide? It's missing, right? Okay. So we have got this ODU 0. So what is ODU 0? ODU 0 is specifically to support 1 gigabit Ethernet signals. Because if you think, people who are involved in planning and build activities might remember, because when we had cards like Muxponder cards in DWDM, it had 4 ports providing a bandwidth of 2.5G, but we have still configured this 2.5G and gave a 1G to a customer. And then we got Muxponder cards with 10 ports, which is capable of giving more 1 gigabit Ethernet signals. Because what happens is businesses, for example, you have developed a technology which can give you something like 40G or 100G, and if you're going to sell it to a client, then he will come up with questions that whether it will be compatible to my user demands. Because 1G and 10G are here to stay for a longer time. And that will be the customer's demand. And if we cannot groom these signals into the new technologies which is coming like 40G and 100G, nobody will buy it. So we got this ODU 0. And remember, this ODU 0 is not a physical instance. And that's why this was not mentioned in the previous slide. So ODU 0 is specifically for this 1 gigabit Ethernet signals. And this will be the half of the size of ODU 1. 1.25 Gbps. Half of the size of ODU 1. So this, if for example, we have 2 gigabit Ethernet signals, yes, it can get accommodated into one ODU 1. Okay. And for doing this, we have got this protocol called generic mapping procedure, which enables this package. That is a gigabit Ethernet coming in, and you are wrapping it into an ODU 0, and then 2 ODU 0s will combine and go into an ODU 1. Okay, this is the container. So gigabit Ethernet signals are being made into ODU 0s, and that enters into ODU 1. But as such, there are no OTU 0s. Remember, this is specifically to cater the needs of the users. Okay, let's have a look about the technology overview of this ODU mapping. Because when signals of 1 gigabit Ethernets are coming in, they had to be accommodated into the existing package of this ODU ones. So what we do is, say for example, this is the frame. On the first instance, we will give in this first gigabit Ethernet signal. And on the second instance, the second gigabit Ethernet signal goes in. So this becomes ODU 0, first ODU 0, and this becomes the second ODU 0. And these are finally accommodated into ODU 1 exactly. Yeah. Okay, you are with me. Okay, client signal mapping. Client signal could be anything. For example, we are taking a gigabit Ethernet signal. When it comes, it gets compressed, and we use this thing called generic mapping procedure, so that we map that, and that becomes an OTU standard. Starts from here, OTU standard, OPU 0, and then you add this ODU overheads, and again generic mapping procedure, so that it can get fit into ODU 1. Yeah, and then we will have multiple things of same data rates, and finally that gets multiplexed. Again, ODU overheads are added, and finally you got this overall ODU packet. And then it becomes, with OTU overhead, it becomes an OTU, and finally the optical channel. Okay, you see something here as ODU flex. Same thing, customer demand. Somebody wants 6 gigabit per second, and we have to provide it. But we cannot waste a 10 gigabit Ethernet signal, right? I'm sorry, a 10 gigabit Ethernet of our own capacity. So we got this thing called ODU flex, and that was introduced in 2009. What it does is uses VCAT. VCAT, virtual concatenation. Okay. So, so you're going to provide a 10 megabit, 10 Mbps signal to a customer. What will you do? Exactly. So virtual concatenation is used here, and providing customer a 6 Gbps is made possible here, and that is adapted in two ways, and these are constant set by ITUT, and this is the constant bit rate or the committed rate, and we use this GFP framing procedure, and this is 1.25 ODU0, okay, and this is the numbers. It can vary from 1 to 80, and so that if you have a closer look, these capacity can be saved with this ODU flex. Otherwise, we cannot use this. That becomes standard with the traditional ODU, sorry, and now with ODU flex, we can use it. Next, we'll move into bigger rates like 40G and 100G. Wide Ethernet transport. As we started using wide Ethernet transport, capacities like 20G and more than 20G needs to be transported from one office of a customer, for example, to their another location. So people were in need of optical layer. So we developed something like 40G and 100G, so that capacities, huge capacities, can be transported over a distance of 40 kilometers. And you have the standard ITUT SD15 from the OTN point of view, and IEEE 802.3BA from the Ethernet side, so that these work in close, and we can transport Ethernet signals of varied rate into optical layer. And how it is getting mapped. Compare the overheads that we saw earlier and the frame structure. We'll easily understand. Generic mapping procedure plays a key role. And then you got this ODU4. So ODU1, 2.5G, and ODU2, yes, and ODU3, 40G, and now you have got ODU4. Okay. And they use something called transcoding with this 40G, and transcoding itself is a separate topic which can be discussed for more than an hour. So these are the two variations and mappings that we have got for 40G and 100G. Okay, so are you with me? We'll move on to OTN lanes. So OTN lanes, again, OTN lane is an advanced technology that we have got, and that can also be discussed for more than an hour. And now we will just see a glimpse of what it is. So if you have a closer look, we've got this client signal, and again, the normal frame structures that we saw, OTU zeros and OTU fours, 40Gs, 112 gigabit per second. So have a look here, OTN lane. Compare that with the normal, I'll tell you a small analogy. We are traveling in a car and it is a one-way. So as traffic builds up, we have started moving into 4-way lanes, 6-way lanes. Same thing happened here. As traffic increased, we started addressing the signals through lanes. OTL-K.N. This is nothing, just see this. OTL 3.1 is 10.7, that is 10G. And here you got OTL 4, which is equal to 27, but we normally say 25 when we give it to the customers, 25, and OTL 4.10. And if you are interested, you can tell your comments to our Tech Talk forum, so that OTN lanes itself can be discussed in another session. Next is optical switching. I hope this view you might be a little familiar. The MUX DMUX part, again the ODM, regenerators. Now just try to remember the earlier frame structure and mappings that we saw earlier. The OTUs we've got at this level, and the optical channel. a signal from one location. Consider this as a full signal from a DWDM pipe that enters inside our box, and that gets demultiplexed. If you want, you drop it, and again it gets multiplexed here, and again it goes through an amplifier, which is the other, and demultiplexed, again multiplexed. So if you have a look here, the client signal, it could be an SGH Sonnet or anything, and then you got this OPU, that is optical payload unit, because we add those overheads, and then it becomes ODU, again overheads, OTU overhead. So these are all, till this point it will be in the electrical domain, and after that, once it becomes optical channel, you move into optical domain. So this OMU is the optical multiplex unit, and this is optical multiplex sections and optical transport module finally. So if you have a look here, you'll better understand the switching part. So all optical switches get their name from being able to carry light input to their output ports in its native state. So it should remain its native state. At the same time, switching should be possible. And optical switching should be independent of data rate and protocol. And it should also reduce the network equipment and increase in switching speed and decrease in operating power. So this is the basic electronic switch. Have a closer look, the input port, output port, and the fabric you've got, so that it helps to switch. Okay. And this is the basic optical switch. This is the optical backplane. So you know what a switch does, right? Okay. So now we have got all these forms of optical switching: space division switching, wavelength division switching, time division switching, and a hybrid switching, where it combines all these three areas. So at the moment we have got purely electronic switching. People who work in the equipment might have felt it. It's purely electronic, and now a hybrid is being developed, optical plus electronic, and purely optical in development. So join with me in the journey. So this is the traditional OTN structure. It started like this. We had only 2.5G, 10G, and 40G, which is OTU1s and OTU2, OTU3. A lot of things are missing now. Can you come up with few? OTU0s, OTU flex, and OTU4. We got all this as the technology developed. And this is very simple. The same KLM structures that you might have used in SGH or Sonnet. So you've got this ODU zeros here, so that you multiply with 2 and it becomes ODU 1. Then you got this ODU 1s here, that is 2.5G, and you move a layer up here. Okay, you multiply that with 4 plus overhead, and that becomes 10G, and a layer up. And if it is directly, then it is multiplied by 10. Is this easily understandable? Simple multiplication. Easier than the structure that we saw in SDH Sonnet, I believe. 100G is for engineers, 1 TB is for dreamers. This was an old saying, I would say, because people who work in the equipments have already started using cards of 100G, 200G, and even 500G. And now 1 TB is for dreamers. This was an old saying. Now we've got cards for 1 TB from companies like Infinera. And if 1 TB is for dreamers, then what about 10 TB as an objective? So with that, I finished my session. I hope this was interesting and useful and informative to you all. And if you have any questions, please come. And I wholeheartedly thank everyone for spending your valuable time with me. So any questions?
Which are the equipments that is supporting that OTN?
OTN architecture.